On a cool spring morning, a family woke up to the sound of gunfire. By the time the sun had settled in the western sky, some 20 bodies would be found riddled by bullets or charred by the fires that had been intentionally set to burn the tent city to the ground. Of the 20 dead, 12 were children. The Ludlow massacre of 1914 isn't remembered, isn't taught, isn't celebrated. The names of the dead, mostly known only to historians, are forgotten. Their crime? Wanting their union demands to be recognized. Those demands, safer working conditions, better pay, and importantly, that the state of Colorado enforce the labor laws that were already on the books when it came to mining. Major coal companies rejected the demands and, along with the state of Colorado, attacked a tent city of just under 900 people on private land, land the union had rented for its workers and their families. Now, so you understand, I'm not going to hide it. I'm pro-union, and I'm proud to say that I've served as a union steward and I've participated in negotiating union contracts. That doesn't mean that I don't have problems with how unions operate, and I've got complaints. But this video isn't about my feelings or my thoughts, of which I have many. It's about history, about the fight, the beatdowns, the murders, the injustices that the common, hard-working man suffered back in the day to get you an 8-hour workday, or better, safer working conditions, and a whole bunch of other rights that as working stiffs we get on the job these days. The starting point is recognizing the fact that the states, the federal governments, and employers all were pro-business, and unions, well, they were perceived as anti-business. A lot of people who want to believe that unions create more harm than good never mention what a working man's life was like before unions came to power back in the 40s or 50s. At the start of the 20th century, a mere 100 years ago, if you worked for the railroad, or a steel mill, or you mined coal, you worked for one of the biggest employers of that time. You probably belonged to a union that didn't have an awful lot of power, because any money you were making, you were only allowed to spend at the company store, and your rent went to company housing. You had no choice. They took the damn money right out of your check. You get sick, the company doctor was your only option. And again, they took that payment right out of your check. That all started to change back in 1892, when workers for Carnegie Steel went on strike. Their complaints? Pay cuts. To make the story short, Andrew Carnegie, who was a super rich dude, wanted to break the union, as he had done at other plants. When the current contract expired, pay cuts were announced, the union responded with a strike, and all hell broke loose. Private security, the Pinkertons were called in, and when the smoke cleared, 16 people had died, mostly Pinkerton guards. Carnegie, he fired everybody, and the state militia moved in to secure the police, and the only people that were ever arrested were leaders of the strike. And with no leadership, the strike fell apart. Carnegie won. He rehired everybody at longer hours and less pay. In 1921, 10,000 West Virginia coal miners walked off their jobs. Their complaints? Squalid housing, unsafe working conditions, and being paid in script, which again was company money, money that could only be spent at their company stores. In what became known as a battle for Bear Mountain, local law enforcement battled it out with miners for 5 full days, with people dying on both sides, before federal troops intervened. The point in talking about all this? Men die so that you have safe working conditions, a 40-hour work week, holidays and holiday pay, seniority, job security, maternity leave, decent wages, health care, and the right to petition for a grievance against your employer. And those are only some of the things that unions have given us. Yes, unions are not perfect, and the reality is any union is only as strong as its rank and file, its membership. And yes, it's a lot easier at the end of your workday to just go home and have a beer instead of attending a union meeting. But maybe try to remember the next time you ask for a day off that you can ask for that day off because someone literally fought and died for your right to do so. One more time. Someone died a horrible death fighting for your rights. Don't ever, ever take that right lightly. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you understood what I was trying to say. You know, I'm I understand there's a lot of people anti-union these days, that they're not as big as they were back in the 70s and 80s, and they saw their decline with Reagan. But this is, my support for unions, for the common man to have a voice. I mean, he's not going to get it anywhere else, and that's it's a sword I'll die on. We need that voice. We can't lose it. We need to have a say in something, you know, especially when it comes to our lives. And yeah, like I said in the video, there are things with some unions. I mean, sometimes they concentrate too much on protecting the union, and there were union people. I mean, as a union steward, I had to defend people that were in the wrong, man. You know, and you need to be able to say, "Hey, sorry," shit like that. But and that's just a small example of what I'm talking about. Fair share. I could be convinced that concept needs to be reworked somewhat drastically. Yeah, power to the people.